The fake heir tied me to a wish system. However, there was a catch. Whatever I wished for, he would get double. He fantasized about using this system to coast through life, reach the pinnacle of success without lifting a finger, and treat me like his personal doormat forever. He even planned to make my biological parents completely disown me. But he never expected one tiny detail. I wasn't going to play by his script. I made a wish. I wished to get exactly 8 hours of sleep every day. That night, the fake heir fell into a comatose slumber for a solid 16 hours. Right after that, I casually dropped my second wish. Who would have thought that by the very next day, he'd be groveling at my feet, crying and begging me to stop making wishes? I held my third, unsaid wish in my hand, flashing a smile. He and the system couldn't have dreamed in a million years that the rules of this game were originally mine to dictate. After being officially recognized by my filthy rich biological family, I was bound to a wish system. The system stated that as long as I completed its assigned tasks, any wish could become reality. However, I had a dream. I dreamed that every time my wish came true, my luck was hijacked and doubled by the fake heir. Ultimately, I passed away in sheer frustration. When I woke up, the family reunion happened exactly as scheduled. This time, I looked at the beginner task, bully the poor top student, and let out a soft chuckle. I bolted upright in bed. The cold sweat on my back had already soaked through, leaving dark patches on the cheap faded green and white bamboo mat of my dorm bed. Even my t-shirt clung tightly to my back, sticky like a wet rag. My heart was pounding wildly in my chest, the thumping hitting my ribs so hard it physically hurt. Even my temples were throbbing in rhythmic bursts. Outside the window, dawn was just breaking. A grayish-blue beam of light filtered through the old, rusty anti-theft window bars, landing on the bed of roommate 3, Trey, opposite me. He was sleeping, sprawled out like a starfish, a shiny trail of drool glistening at the corner of his mouth. He was mumbling, "Don't fight over my chicken drumstick. The last one is mine." His snores sounded like a small engine, echoing exceptionally loud in the quiet room. I stared blankly at the yellowed, water-stained ceiling. My mind was completely filled with the suffocating final scenes from that dream. In the dream, I was lying on a rock-hard, creaky wooden bed in a dingy rental room I had subleased for the third time. The bed frame groaned. The corner of the room was piled high with unwashed clothes, and the air carried the faint scent of cheap instant noodles. The screen of the old smartphone in my hand was still lit. It displayed a social media post from the fake heir, Spencer Sterling. He was wearing a high-end, custom-tailored tuxedo, holding Lily in his arms. She was wearing a mermaid-style wedding dress, leaning her head on his shoulder and smiling as radiantly as a flower. Standing right behind them were my parents. My mother, dripping in jewelry, and wearing a noble cheongsam, tightly held Lily's hand, laughing so hard her eyes were practically shut. My father patted Spencer's shoulder, his face full of comforting pride. The caption read, "Happy wedding to our son. Wishing you eternal happiness." Those 2 words, "our son," stabbed straight into my eyes like a needle. Right after that, my chest felt like it was blocked by a waterlogged cotton ball. Breathing became increasingly difficult. Every inhale carried the metallic scent of blood. Finally, my vision went completely black, carrying nothing but bitter resentment. Why does he get to steal my life and still live so well? I sank deep into an endless darkness. "Son of a glitch," I cursed, raising a hand to wipe my face. My palm was covered in cold sweat. That dream was too real. So real that even now, closing my eyes, I could clearly remember the look of disgust in my mother's eyes when she looked at me. No different from looking at a pile of garbage. So real that every time Spencer was about to approach me to call me brother, the fake smile flashing at the corners of his mouth was unmistakable. So real that Lily's evasive gaze when looking at me felt as if I were some ferocious beast. "My name is Max. I grew up at the Sunflower Orphanage in the suburbs," the director said. "When I was first brought there, I was only a few months old, wrapped in a torn piece of cloth, with a silver locket engraved with the letter M hanging around my neck. Yesterday afternoon, 2 men in black suits and shiny leather shoes tracked me down. They told me I was the true long-lost young master of the Sterling Group, missing for 18 years. At that time I was getting food at the cafeteria, my hands still holding a half-eaten bowl of tofu and green vegetables. I honestly thought I had run into scammers until they produced a DNA paternity test report with a 99.99% match, along with the silver locket I'd worn for 18 years. They said the emblem engraved on the back of the locket was the Sterling family crest. The plot in the dream matched reality perfectly. Even the detail about Spencer studying an international joint major with tuition 10 times higher than mine was exactly right. Back then, I gritted my teeth and scored 623 points to get in here. My tuition relied entirely on the orphanage's scholarships and the money I scraped together from weekend part-time jobs. And Spencer? I heard from people in the student council that he submitted a 3 million yuan donation to enter the school. His college entrance exam score was a full 120 points below the admission cutoff. In class, he always just sat in the back row. If he wasn't sleeping, he was playing on his phone. Thinking about this, I shivered, goosebumps erupting all over my arms. In the dream, I passed away in sheer frustration, dying in a rental room of just a few square meters, without even a proper funeral. What about reality? Would reality be just like the dream? The family affection I exhausted all my strength to obtain ultimately amounted to a big fat zero. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. The screen lit up, displaying an unknown number. I took a deep breath, gripping the edge of the phone so tightly, my fingertips turned pale, then swiped the screen to answer. A gentle voice came from the other end of the line, yet it carried a sense of distance, like glass shards wrapped in sugar. "Max, are you free this morning? The family will send a car to pick you up. Let's meet for a bit to discuss future arrangements." The dialogue didn't miss a single word compared to the dream. I stared at the phone screen. Two half-familiar sentences suddenly popped into my head. Doing nothing is doing everything. Not fighting is fighting. Fighting is not fighting. Those were words I read in a worn-out copy of the Tao Te Ching on the orphanage bookshelf last year. At the time, I thought it was just pretentious nonsense, but now, they felt like a lifesaver. "I'll wait for everyone at the school's west gate." I tried to make my voice sound as calm as possible. After hanging up, I realized my back was drenched in sweat again. When I climbed down from the bed, the wooden boards let out a loud squeak that woke Trey up. He rubbed his eyes, sat up with his hair looking like a chicken's nest, and asked, "Max, what's wrong? Why do you look so terrible first thing in the morning?" "It's nothing, just had a nightmare," I said while looking for clothes. My fingers brushed against a faded t-shirt in the closet, and my heart sank again. "Oh right, I'm treating you guys to lunch today. You pick the place, order whatever you want." Trey instantly woke up completely, jumping out of bed without even putting on his slippers. "Holy guacamole! Did Max strike it rich? Don't tell me you're actually a hidden billionaire heir. You previously said you grew up in an orphanage. I thought you were a broke student just like me." I smiled, said nothing, and put my t-shirt on. The Sterling family's car was parked under the sycamore tree at the school's west gate. The black Maybach with its quintuple-digit license plate shone brilliantly under the sun, dazzling to the eyes. The driver, wearing a black uniform and sparkling gold cufflinks on his wrists, saw me approaching. He immediately and respectfully opened the back door, bowing slightly, in an inviting gesture, but his evaluating gaze pierced into me like needles. I bent down and got into the car. The leather seats were so soft they made me feel uncomfortable, and I didn't know where to put my hands and feet. The car carried a faint scent of agarwood, completely different from the smell of disinfectant in the dorms or the orphanage. As the car drove onto the highway, watching the high-rise buildings rapidly retreating outside the window, my heart didn't feel the slightest bit of excitement about reuniting with my ancestors. Instead, the panic from the dream grew larger and larger. In the dream, the first time I went to the Sterling mansion, I was so nervous my hands shook. When I entered the door, I accidentally knocked over a vase in the hallway. Spencer's then accidentally splashed juice on my clothes. My mother, even though I didn't dare call her mom yet at the time, frowned, using a tissue to wipe the juice off her dress, her tone full of disgust. "So hasty and clumsy, absolutely no manners. It's like you've never seen the world." This time, I had wised up. I had ironed my clothes perfectly smooth beforehand, spending 5 yuan at the school laundromat to iron them yesterday. I even bought a pack of tissues and put it in my pocket. Even my fingernails were clipped clean. The Sterling mansion was even more magnificent than in the dream. The fountain in front of the door shot water 3 meters high. The water drops fell onto the marble floor, shattering into tiny beads. A large patch of red roses was planted in the yard, the petals still holding morning dew. Nearby, a worker in uniform was holding shears, trimming the branches and leaves. Mrs. Sterling stood on the front steps, wearing a beige silk dress and a pearl necklace, holding an alligator skin handbag. Her face carried a smile, but that bland smile only stopped at the corners of her mouth and didn't reach her eyes. "Max, you must have had a tiring trip. Hurry and come in, the wind is strong outside." Spencer was there too. He leaned against the doorframe, his hair styled sleekly with gel, the ends dyed with a few strands of gold. Seeing me arrive, he immediately and enthusiastically welcomed me, reaching out to pat my shoulder. "Brother, you're finally here! Mom, Dad, and I have been waiting for you since yesterday. I even specially told the kitchen to make your favorite dishes." "Oh, right. I don't know what you like to eat, so I just told them to make a bit of everything." Just as his hand was about to touch my shoulder, I quietly took a step to the side, dodging his hand, and whispered a thank you. Spencer's hand froze mid-air, a flash of surprise in his eyes. Perhaps he didn't expect that I wouldn't act overwhelmed by the favor like in the dream, but instead carried a hint of distance. Entering the living room, I became even more reserved. The crystal chandelier in the living room was 2 meters wide, its light pouring down on the rosewood furniture, blindingly bright. On the wall hung landscape paintings signed by some famous artist whose name I didn't recognize. A maid brought up a cup of hot tea. I took it with both hands, letting the warmth touch my fingertips, and softly said, "Thank you." Then I sat down on the farthest couch, the seat furthest away from the head of the table. My back was perfectly straight, pretending to be tense, but I was actually using my peripheral vision to observe their reactions. Sure enough, barely a few sentences in, Mrs. Sterling put down her teacup, leaning slightly forward. Her tone carried a sense of negotiation, yet radiated an undeniable finality. "Max, you just got back. There are many things in the house you need to adapt to. You see, Spencer has lived in this house for 18 years. His bond with us is very deep. Suddenly having an older brother, the boy is probably feeling uncomfortable in his heart. So, regarding your name, let's keep it as it is for now. No need to rush to change it. To the outside world, hold off on saying, you are a child of the Sterling family. We want to avoid people gossiping and making things difficult for Spencer. Is that all right?" Word for word, exactly the same as in the dream. I looked up, revealing a conflicted expression on my face. My fingers dug tightly into the rim of the teacup. I paused for a few seconds before answering softly. "Yes, I'll listen to you, Auntie." I didn't say Mom. I couldn't bring myself to say it. In the dream, the first time I called her Mom, she froze for a moment, then gave a non-committal, but her eyes immediately darted towards Spencer. That specific look made my heart go half cold. Mr. Sterling, sitting on the armchair opposite me, had been holding a purple clay teapot and keeping silent the whole time. Only now did he slowly speak, his voice full of authority. "The rooms in the villa are fully equipped, but you just got back. You probably won't be used to living with us. We'll set up a guest room for you first. Wait until you adapt, then we'll see." His eyes swept over my body like he was appraising the value of a product. There wasn't a single ounce of a father's deep affection for his flesh and blood son. "Thank you, Uncle." I continued to nod, maintaining my obedient and understanding demeanor, but my heart felt like it was being pricked by needles and rubbed with salt. Spencer, standing to the side, pretended to offer advice. "Mom, brother, just got back. How can we make him stay in the guest room? My room is big. How about I give my room to him? I can stay in the guest room." He said these words, but his eyes darted to Mrs. Sterling, waiting for her to refuse. I quickly waved my hands, intentionally acting overwhelmingly flattered. "No need, no need. The guest room is fine. I can stay anywhere." I wouldn't dare trouble classmate Spencer. The smugness hidden in the depths of Spencer's eyes was almost impossible to conceal. He took a sip of tea, the corners of his mouth twitching into an imperceptible smile. He must be thinking I was just as easy to manipulate as in the dream. Give me a little sweetness, and I'd obediently follow orders. Waiting until they had finished laying out all their demands, I slowly raised my head, pulling a neatly folded piece of paper out of my pocket. It was the calculation I had stayed up until midnight doing in my dorm room under the desk lamp. I had written down every single stroke, from the 300 yuan monthly living allowance at the orphanage, to the 2,860 yuan in book and miscellaneous fees during my 9 years of compulsory education, even though tuition was free. Then there was the 2,0 yuan annual scholarship during my 3 years of high school, the money I spent on textbooks and stationery each year, and even the 500 yuan medical bill the orphanage paid when I got sick in 12th grade. The grand total came to exactly 86,427 yuan. Even the odd change was calculated clearly one by one. I handed the paper over and said, "Uncle, Auntie, I grew up in the orphanage since I was little. The state has helped me a lot. The director said that as a person, you must be grateful. Now that I have found everyone, I want to ask Uncle and Auntie to reimburse this money back to the state. You can donate it to the orphanage. Consider it my way of personally thanking the country for the grace of raising me all these years." The living room instantly fell dead silent. Even the sound of the maid's footsteps vanished. Mr. and Mrs. Sterling's faces immediately froze. The teacup in Mrs. Sterling's hand trembled, tea splashing out and soaking into her silk dress, forming a small dark stain. Spencer didn't even bother acting anymore. He frowned, looking at me with an expression like he was looking at a monster. It was as if I had just made an unimaginable, unreasonable request. Mrs. Sterling took the paper, her fingers trembling slightly. She stared at it for a long while before forcing a stiff smile. "Max, you child, why are you being so polite? The family still has this little bit of money. No need to make it so complicated." Her voice sounded unnatural. She clearly didn't expect me to make such a request, throwing off all her plans completely. Mr. Sterling let out a cough to break the awkward atmosphere. He took a black bank card from the inner pocket of his suit, placed it on the coffee table, and slid it toward me. "There are 5 million yuan in here. Consider it compensation from us to you. As for that other money, we will have someone donate it to the orphanage. You don't need to worry about it." His tone carried a bit of impatience, like he was giving alms to a pesky beggar. 5 million yuan, double the amount compared to the dream. In the dream, they only gave 2.5 million yuan, and called it temporary living expenses. I sneered internally, but on the outside, I maintained a panicked look of receiving an overwhelming favor. I took the bank card with both hands, gripping the edge of the card tightly, and spoke up. "Thank you, Uncle Auntie, but this money is too much. I cannot accept so much. Just take it." Mr. Sterling interrupted me with a tone that allowed no questioning. "Consider it our debt to you." I put the bank card into my pocket. I didn't say anything more, nor did I call them Mom and Dad or stay any longer. I checked the time on my phone, then stood up and asked to leave. "Uncle, Auntie, classmate Spencer, I still have a class this afternoon, so I will excuse myself to return to school first." Mrs. Sterling froze. She probably didn't expect that I had no intention of staying. In the dream, I had timidly asked if I could stay, only for her to use the excuse that the guest room wasn't ready to chase me back to school. She hurriedly said, "You're not going to sit a bit longer? Have dinner at home. The kitchen made a lot of dishes." "No thank you. The school still has things to do." "Thank you, Auntie." After saying that, I turned around and walked straight out without looking back. I was afraid that if I turned my head, I would see their relieved expressions. I was afraid I wouldn't be able to resist asking, "Did you guys ever even consider me your son?" Walking out of the villa's gates, the driver wanted to take me back to school, but I refused, saying I wanted to take a walk by myself. Walking along the tree-lined road outside the villa area, the sunlight pierced through the leaves and fell onto the ground, creating dappled spots of light. I clenched the bank card tightly in my hand. The edge of the card cut into my palm, hurting slightly. In my heart there was only one single thought. The grievances I suffered in the dream, I absolutely will not let myself endure them a second time. Spencer owes me. My parents owe me. I will take everything back, piece by piece. When I returned to the dorm, roommate 3, Trey, roommate 2, Ben, and roommate 4, Dan, were all there. Trey was sitting at his computer playing a game, the keyboard clacking loudly. Ben was wearing headphones, watching a movie, occasionally letting out giggles. Dan was organizing his books, preparing to go to the library. Seeing me return, Trey immediately paused his game and turned around, his eyes wide as light bulbs. "Max, how did it go? Are you really a billionaire heir? Did those 2 guys in suits and leather shoes really come to pick you up?" I took the bank card out of my pocket and tossed it onto the desk. Smack! The card hit the desk with a crisp, clear sound. The 3 roommates instantly gathered around, their eyes glued to that black card. 5 million, I said, my tone trying to be as calm as possible. "I bet it's a scam. Who just randomly hands people 5 million yuan? Ben picked up the bank card, examining it under the light for a long time, his fingers carefully holding the edge as if afraid to dirty it. "Holy smokes, Max, are you being kept by a sugar mama? Just looking at this card, you can tell it's not cheap. Is this a black card? Get out of here!" I laughed, raising my hand to slap the back of Ben's neck. "What sugar mama? It's that thing I told you guys about before. Someone said I was their long-lost child. This is the compensation money they gave me." I recounted the recognition process to them. Naturally, I didn't mention the dream. I just said the family was a bit weird. They wouldn't let me change my name, wouldn't publicly acknowledge me, yet suddenly gave me 5 million. It felt off. Trey patted my shoulder, hitting me so hard I almost tumbled forward. "Max, who cares if it's a scam or not? Withdraw the money and spend it first. 5 million yuan. That's enough for us brothers to eat, drink, and party until graduation. You could even buy a car." "He's right," Dan chimed in, adjusting his glasses, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "Daddy Max, how about you take us out for a meal? Consider it a celebration of you finding your family, and a celebration of our dorm getting a rich kid." Looking at their expectant faces, my heart suddenly felt a bit warmer. Growing up in the orphanage, I didn't have many friends. There were so many kids, everyone just fended for themselves. Coming to college, these 3 roommates were the first time I felt a sense of brotherhood. They would leave the door unlocked for me when I came back late from my part-time jobs. They would drag me to the cafeteria when I didn't have money for food. They would buy medicine for me when I was sick. "Alright, you guys pick the place. Eat all you want today. Whatever you want to eat, just order it. Don't be polite." The 3 of them cheered and jumped up. Trey immediately closed his game, opened a review app, and started searching. Finally, he picked a very popular barbecue joint near the school called The Old Spot. I heard their roast lamb leg and grilled kidneys were incredibly good, but the prices were a bit steep. Normally, we only went there for the birthdays of the 4 of us. We rode public bikes to the barbecue joint. The place was packed, smoke billowing, the air carrying the scent of meat skewers and cold beer. The boss saw us and warmly greeted, "You boys sitting at the usual spot?" "That's right, boss. Today we're ordering a lot more dishes," Trey shouted loudly, pulling us to sit down at a table in a secluded corner. When the menu arrived, Trey pushed it straight to me. "Max, you order. You're the sugar daddy today." I smiled, took the menu, and ordered a roast lamb leg, grilled kidneys, grilled chicken wings, and all sorts of vegetables. I also ordered 2 crates of cold beer. While waiting for the food, Ben suddenly remembered something and asked me, "Max, is that family treating you well? Is it like what they show on TV? Lots of maids and meals spread out across a massive table." I froze, recalling the cold crystal chandelier in the Sterling living room, and Mrs. Sterling's distant smile. I shook my head. "It's just normal. Nothing too special." Seeing that I didn't want to talk about it, Trey quickly changed the subject. "Alright, let's not talk about unhappy things. Come on, let's have a drink first." He picked up a beer bottle and filled the glasses for all 4 of us. Just as the beer was poured, the barbecue arrived. The steaming hot roast lamb leg had a crispy golden skin, sprinkled with cumin and chili powder. The aroma was mouth-watering. The 4 of us grabbed skewers and ate ravenously, chatting as we ate, from gaming to studying, from the future to our ideals. The atmosphere got livelier and livelier. Halfway through, Trey stood up holding his beer glass, the foam spilling out. "Max, I toast to you. No matter if you're a rich heir or not, just for this meal alone. From now on, you are my big brother. No, you are my daddy. You have to protect me from now on. I'll follow you to conquer the world." "Beat it, who's your daddy?" I laughed, kicking him lightly under the table. But my heart was genuinely very happy. I raised my glass and clinked it with his. "Protect what? We are brothers, man." Ben and Dan also joined in raising their glasses. "Daddy, remember to take us out to eat more good food in the future." "No problem," I promised with a smile, then took a huge gulp of beer. The chill of the beer slid down my throat, washing away the lingering gloom in my heart. We ate and drank until we were full. By the time we returned to the dorm, it was almost 11 p.m. The corridor was quiet, with only the sound-activated lights flicking on as we walked past. I washed up, lay down on my hard wooden bed, closed my eyes, and prepared to have a really good sleep. Suddenly, a robotic, emotionless voice echoed in my head, like synthesized audio from a computer. Dings. Suitable host detected. Wish system successfully bound. I immediately snapped my eyes open. Every hair on my body stood on end. In the blink of an eye, a layer of cold sweat coated my back. This system was exactly the same as in the dream. I thought I was hallucinating and quickly closed my eyes, muttering internally, "I must have drunk too much. Just a hallucination." But that robotic voice echoed again, clearer than before. "Host, please do not panic. This system is the wish system. A total of 3 wish opportunities are provided to the host. The host must complete designated tasks issued by the system to earn the right to wish. Task failure will result in punishment." "Screw you!" I screamed internally. "I don't need any system. Get the hell out of my head!" Ding. System binding is irreversible. If the host refuses to complete tasks, you must endure punishment. The content of the punishment is randomized and may affect the host's health, academics, or social relationships. The robotic voice didn't waver in the slightest. First task assigned: bully the top-ranking poor student in the major, Vivian. Time limit: 24 hours. Please complete the task promptly. Vivian. The image of that girl instantly popped into my head. She wasn't tall, about 1.58 meters. She always wore a faded blue school uniform jacket. In the winter, she threw on an old puffy coat. In the summer, just the uniform. In class, she always sat in the very front row, her back perfectly straight, taking dense notes and using various colored pens to highlight the key points. Her family background was extremely difficult. I heard the class president mention before that her dad was a gambling addict who lost absolutely everything, leaving the family buried in debt. Her mom was chronically ill and needed money for medicine year-round. She also had a younger brother in middle school. Tuition and living expenses all weighed heavily on her shoulders. Every day after class, she had to work part-time, working at a convenience store near the school until 11 p.m. On weekends, she handed out flyers. In the dream, I listened to the system and bullied Vivian. When she wasn't looking, I tore her notebooks to shreds, throwing the pieces all over the floor. I blocked her path at the convenience store, stole the wages she had just received, and shoved her to the ground. I spread vicious rumors on the school forum, saying she dated rich older men for money and used shady tactics to get scholarships. Ultimately, 2 years after graduation, the unbearable pressure pushed her to tragically end her life at the school's academic building. The news said that before she died, she still owed over 100,000 yuan. Her mother had passed away because there was no money for treatment. Her younger brother also had to drop out of school to work. At the time, I even felt it was the system forcing me, that I had no other choice but to do it. Now, thinking back, I was an absolute scumbag. I ruined her life with my own hands. I drove her into a dead end. I raised my hand and slapped myself. Smack! The crisp sound rang out in the quiet dorm room. Trey, sleeping next to me, was woken up. He mumbled in a daze, "Max, what's wrong? Why are you hitting mosquitoes so hard?" "It's nothing." I lowered my voice, my throat slightly choked up, but my mind was churning like a stormy sea. The tragedy in the dream, I absolutely will not let it repeat. Vivian worked so kind, she didn't deserve that ending. But the system said if I didn't complete the task, there would be a punishment. What do I do? If the punishment affected my brothers, or affected my studies, how would I deal with it? I stared at the mold spots on the ceiling, my mind a mess. Suddenly, a thought flashed. The system told me to bully Vivian, but it never clarified how I was supposed to bully her. Is the definition of bullying decided by me, or the system? If I used another method to bully her, one that completed the system's task but also helped her, wouldn't that work perfectly? The moment this thought appeared, I instantly sat up, my eyes shining brightly. That's right, I'll do just that. The next afternoon, I arrived at the academic building half an hour early to wait. Right as classes ended, students walked out in groups of 2 or 3, chatting and laughing. I leaned against a sycamore tree, my eyes glued to the door of the building, waiting for Vivian to come out. I had thought it through carefully last night, how to bully her while also helping her. The things she lacked most were money, and a way to escape her gambling-addicted father. So, I had to start with these 2 points. After waiting for about 10 minutes, I saw Vivian's figure. She was wearing her faded backpack, holding a clear plastic bag in her hand. Inside were 2 steamed buns and a small packet of pickled vegetables. That was probably her dinner. She walked very fast, her head lowered as if afraid of being recognized. I was just about to step forward to talk to her, when suddenly, a middle-aged man rushed out from a small alley nearby. He was wearing a tattered jacket covered in grease stains. His hair was messy, his face full of stubble. He reeked strongly of cigarettes and alcohol. He tightly grabbed Vivian's arm, his coarse voice sounding like sandpaper rubbing together. "Where's the money? I told you to get me money! Are you holding out on me?" It was her father, Frank. Vivian was so scared she trembled violently. The plastic bag in her hand fell to the ground. The 2 steamed buns rolled out into a muddy puddle on the side of the road, instantly stained with filthy mud. Her face turned pale, her voice trembling like she was about to cry. "Dad, I really don't have that much money. My paycheck this month, I just used it to buy medicine for Mom. What's left is only enough for me and my brother to survive." "Medicine? Her illness is a bottomless pit. It can't be cured." Frank raised his hand ready to hit Vivian. The slap carried a threatening wind. "I'm telling you, you have to give me 5,000 yuans today. If not, I'll go to your school and make a scene so you can't study anymore. Let everyone know you have a gambling dad." Vivian squeezed her eyes shut in terror, her body shaking uncontrollably. I couldn't hold back anymore. I lunged forward and forcefully shoved Frank away. He lost his balance, stumbling backward a few steps and almost falling over. I raised my hand and gifted him a slap in the face. Smack! A crisp, decisive sound. Frank was beaten into a daze. He stood frozen in place, holding his face, glaring at me furiously. "Who the hell are you? Do you know who I am?" I looked at him coldly, my voice brimming with anger. "Do you know who I am? Try touching her one more time and see what happens." Frank looked at me, then looked at the crowd of students gathering around. Some had already pulled out their phones to record. His expression shifted. A flash of fear crossed his eyes, but he quickly put on a fierce look again. "You just wait! This isn't over!" After saying that, he glared at Vivian menacingly, then turned around, cursing as he ran off, quickly disappearing into the alley. Vivian collapsed to the ground, carefully picking up the 2 mud-covered steamed buns. Tears fell like a broken string of pearls, soaking into the buns and leaving blotchy watermarks. Her shoulders trembled slightly. She looked incredibly helpless and pitiful. I walked over and yanked her up. I intentionally used a vicious, impatient tone. "Follow me." I dragged Vivian so hard she stumbled. She looked up, her eyes filled with terror, her voice trembling. "Well, what do you want?" "Shut up and walk." I ignored her completely and dragged her straight into a small study room behind the academic building. That room was usually used for self-study and rarely had people passing by, especially at this hour when students had either gone to eat or returned to their dorms. I was certain the room was empty. I pulled her into the room and let go. The small room was very quiet, with only the sound of the wind rustling the leaves outside the window. The blackboard still had leftover formulas written by the teacher from the previous class. There were cobwebs in the corners, and the desks were covered in a thin layer of dust. I pushed her into a chair. Then, I took out 2 stacks of cash from my bag. I had gone to the bank yesterday to withdraw it. Each stack was 10,000 yuan, bound with a red bank seal printed with a logo. I slammed the cash onto the desk. Thud. The stacks hit the table with a heavy sound. Vivian was startled by the noise. She stared blankly at me, her eyes filled with confusion and fear. I deliberately put on the look of a lecherous creep, my gaze scanning her from head to toe, my tone sleazy. "I want to hire you as my personal assistant. Salary is 20,000 yuan a month. The requirements are simple. Be on call at all times. Whatever I tell you to do, you must do it. No resisting." Vivian's eyes sparked, as if seeing a ray of hope, but it vanished almost immediately. She bit her lip, both hands gripping the hem of her jacket tightly, and suddenly stood up from the chair. Her voice was full of defiance. "I won't do it. Don't you dare try to bully me. I'd rather starve to death than do something like this." "Bully you?" I sneered, raising my hand and slapping her lightly on the cheek. I didn't use any force, just barely tapped her cheek, but it still left a red patch on her face. I had to make her think I truly wanted to bully her, so the twist later wouldn't raise suspicions. I purposefully raised my voice, my tone full of threats. "Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Your mom is still in the hospital, waiting for medicine money, right? Your brother hasn't paid his tuition this month, right? If you don't do this, I'll throw this money away right now. I'll make sure you can never hold your head up again. You think you can keep studying? You think your mom will survive?" These words stabbed into Vivian's heart like knives. Her tears instantly spilled out, her shoulders trembling even more violently. She looked at the 2 stacks of cash on the desk, then at me. Her eyes were filled with agonizing conflict and pain. Finally, she slowly lowered her head, her choked voice sounding as if she had given up all resistance. "I'll do it." She reached out with trembling hands, picking up the cash on the desk and carefully clutching it to her chest, as if it were a life-saving straw. Then she looked up, her eyes bloodshot, and asked softly, Is it here, or are we going to a hotel?" Seeing the humiliation and despair in her eyes, my heart ached as if pricked by needles, hurting so much I could barely breathe. But I couldn't go soft. If I went soft, the entire plan would go down the drain, and the system wouldn't spare me either. I deliberately put on a disgusted expression, furrowing my brows and looking her up and down, my tone full of contempt. "Do you think someone as scrawny and withered as you, reeking of cheap laundry detergent, is worthy of me?" Vivian's face instantly went pale. She lowered her head even further, almost burying it in her chest. Her fingers gripped the cash against her chest so tightly that her knuckles turned white. "Now I'll give you my first requirement." I softened my tone slightly, but it still carried an undeniable edge. "Starting from today, stop all your part-time jobs immediately. Don't go to the convenience store anymore. Don't hand out flyers anymore. You must eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Moreover, you must eat good food. At least 1 meat dish and 1 vegetable dish. Your daily food expense must not be less than 50 yuan. Wait until you nourish your body and get healthy before you come find me. Following me around looking like that will only make me lose face. Understand?" Vivian froze. She raised her head, her eyes full of confusion, as if she didn't understand what I was saying. She probably never expected that my so-called bullying was actually forcing her to eat properly and stop working part-time. "What are you looking at?" I purposely glared at her, my tone impatient. Don't think I have good intentions to help you. I simply won't allow someone so pathetically poor to exist in this school. It affects my reputation. Now take the money and get out." After saying that, I turned around and walked straight out without looking back. I was afraid that if I looked one more time, I wouldn't be able to resist explaining myself and apologizing to her. Stepping out of the small room, the wind outside was a bit cold. It blew against my face, making me slightly more awake. I raised my hand and slapped myself. Smack! My palm burned. What a scumbag, I cursed. I clearly wanted to help her, yet I had to use such a hurtful method. Returning to the dorm, I had barely sat down and caught my breath when the system's voice echoed in my head. Ding. Host has completed the task. Bully the top-ranking poor student, Vivian. Task evaluation, pass. Host receives 1 wish opportunity. Based on the current situation, the system recommends wishing for lucrative investments, academic enhancement, or expanded networking. Please make a wish promptly. I let out a sigh of relief. The task was complete, and Vivian was safe. Without a second thought, I spoke straight to the system in my mind. I wish to get exactly 8 hours of perfect, deep sleep every single day. In the dream, for my first wish, I had chosen investment wealth. As a result, Spencer earned double, and my parents favored him even more. This time, I absolutely refused to pick those utilitarian wishes. I wanted to pick something useful to me, without letting Spencer gain an advantage. Ding. Host wishes for 8 hours of perfect deep sleep every day. Wish successful. Effect will begin tonight. Please wait. The system vanished. That night, I lay on my wooden bed and quickly fell asleep. No nightmares, no ambient noise. I couldn't even hear Trey's snoring. I slept incredibly deep and soundly, as if lying on a cloud. When I woke up the next morning, the sun was already bright. Trey and the others were already up. I stretched, feeling my whole body brimming with energy. My mind was also extremely sharp. This was the best sleep of my life. I grabbed my backpack and headed to class. Just as I reached the door of the academic building, I heard some classmates gossiping about Spencer. Did you guys hear? Spencer slept the entire day yesterday. I heard his alarm went off a dozen times early in the morning, and he didn't wake up. Eventually, his parents had to send the driver all the way to his dorm to wake him up. He almost missed class. One girl whispered, looking like she loved the drama. For real? Last night I texted him to go play games at the internet cafe, and he didn't reply until this morning saying he overslept and missed the message. A guy next to her chimed in, sounding doubtful. He was never like this before. Why is he suddenly so sleepy? I heard his parents took him to the hospital for a checkup, did a brain CT and blood tests and everything. Result? No illness at all. The doctors said it was weird. They'd never seen anyone sleep so much. Another girl said, her eyes wide with curiosity. I sneered internally. Just as I predicted, the system's effect was doubled. I wished for 8 hours, so Spencer was hit with 16 hours. This was the system's trap. Whatever I wished for, Spencer received double the benefit. Whatever I wished for, Spencer received double the benefit. But this time, this double benefit was a massive problem for him. After class, Spencer indeed came looking for me. His face looked terrible. He had dark circles so heavy they looked like bruised luggage. His eyes were bloodshot, his energy completely zapped. Even his normally perfectly styled hair looked like a mop. Are you hiding something from me? He blocked my path, his tone full of suspicion, his eyes staring hard at me to observe my reaction. I pretended to be surprised, showing a confused expression. No, I'm not. What's wrong, classmate Spencer? Your complexion doesn't look good. Are you not getting enough rest? Is the study pressure too high lately? Spencer looked at me, the doubt in his eyes growing deeper. Lately I can't wake up no matter what. I have to sleep a full 16 hours a day. No matter how early I go to bed at night, I can't get up the next day. My parents took me to so many big hospitals and experts, but couldn't find the cause. Tell me, is there something wrong? Is someone playing tricks on me? When he said, someone playing tricks, he stared directly at me. He must have suspected something foul. I don't know. I shrugged, my tone completely innocent. Probably just tired from studying lately. Normally you don't listen carefully in class, so you definitely pull all-nighters to cram before exams. Maybe you ruined your health staying up too late? Pay attention to getting some rest, stop playing games all the time. Spencer was about to say something else, but the class bell rang. The teacher walked into the classroom with lesson plans. He glared at me furiously, then angrily turned and walked back to his seat, the back row by the window. Over the next few days, Spencer's narcolepsy got worse. In class, he was always dozing off, his head lolling to one side. His drool soaked the textbook on his desk. The book was for marketing, and the cover was all wrinkled from his drool. The teacher called on him a few times to answer questions, and he woke up in a daze, unable to speak a single word for ages, making the whole class burst into laughter. Once he even fell asleep in the middle of a student council meeting while the president was speaking. His snoring was legendary in the quiet meeting room. The president was so furious he kicked Spencer out of the council on the spot. Mr. and Mrs. Sterling were losing their minds. They took him from one major hospital to another, even traveling to specialized hospitals in Beijing and Shanghai for all sorts of tests. The results all showed his body had no issues. All his indicators were normal. They ran out of options. They even went to fortune tellers to get amulets for Spencer to wear, and set up feng shui arrays in the house. But nothing worked. Spencer continued to sleep 16 hours a day. When he woke up, he was as groggy as someone missing their soul. As for me, I got my perfect 8 hours of sleep every day, and my spirit was getting better and better. In class, my concentration was extremely high. I understood whatever the teacher taught instantly. I could even answer questions for my classmates. My math used to be weak, and I always struggled to keep up with the teacher's pace. Now, I could easily understand everything and do advanced exercises on my own. My roommates all said I seemed like a different person lately, more active and confident. One evening, I was reading in the library. The library was very quiet, with only the sound of turning pages and pens scratching on paper. I sat by the window, the sunlight filtering through the glass and landing warmly on the pages. Suddenly, a familiar figure appeared in front of me. It was Vivian. She looked a bit fuller than before. Her complexion was rosier, no longer that pale white look. She wore a simple light blue dress with a small bow tied at the collar. She looked very clean and elegant. She held a notebook in her hand, stood in front of me, and softly called out, "Boss." I looked up, smiled, and pointed to the chair opposite me. "Have a seat. How is your body? Have you been eating properly lately?" "Much better, thank you, boss." Vivian sat down and placed the notebook on the table. The notebook had a pink cover printed with adorable patterns. She had probably just bought it. She lowered her head and whispered, "These are the notes I compiled over the past few days. They include the key points and difficult parts the teachers lectured on. If you need it, I can tutor you." "No need." I pushed the notebook back and smiled. "Just study well yourself. These notes are more useful to you." "Oh right, how are your mom and brother? Have the medical bills and tuition been paid?" Vivian froze, then looked up, her eyes full of gratitude. She nodded and said, "My mom has been discharged from the hospital. She's resting at home. The doctor said as long as she takes her medicine on time, she will gradually recover. My brother's tuition is also paid. He even ranked first in his class. He said he wants to learn from his sister." "Thank you, boss. If it weren't for you, I really wouldn't know what to do." "It's nothing," I smiled, feeling very happy. "Just study well. Finding a stable job in the future to take good care of your mom and brother, that is the best way to repay me." Vivian looked at me, her gaze having changed. It was no longer the fear and wariness from before, but was replaced by gratitude and a hint of imperceptible shyness. Her cheeks flushed slightly, and she lowered her head, murmuring, "I know, boss." I was chatting and discussing a math problem with Vivian when the system's voice suddenly echoed in my head. Ding. Second task assigned. Skip class 20 times. Time limit, 3 weeks. Please complete the task promptly. Task failure will result in punishment. Skip class 20 times? I secretly rejoiced in my heart. Luckily, I had prepared in advance. During this period when selecting courses, apart from my major subjects, I purposely chose 3 extremely relaxed electives: film appreciation, tea culture, and international etiquette. These classes were usually loosely managed. The teachers rarely took attendance. Even if they did, I could just have a classmate answer for me. Skipping these classes was incredibly easy. For the next 3 weeks, I began executing my class skipping plan. Whenever it was film appreciation, the teacher usually played old movies. Most students in the class just looked down at their phones or fell asleep. I would take the opportunity to sneak out. In tea culture, when the teacher asked the class to practice tea tasting, I pretended to ask for a bathroom break and went straight back to the dorm or to the library. And for international etiquette, the teacher lectured on dry etiquette knowledge. I only listened halfway before slipping out. Every time I skipped these minor electives, I asked Trey to sign in for me. Trey was very loyal and agreed cheerfully every time, telling me, "Max, go with peace of mind. I'm here, guaranteed no problems." While skipping those electives, I spent most of my time in the library. I either asked Vivian to tutor me or read books researching investments on my own. I had 5 million yuan in my hands. I couldn't just leave it sitting there forever. I had to make money, generate money. I read a lot of books on investing, tracked a few stocks and financial funds, and prepared to allocate a portion of the funds to invest when the time was ripe. Actually, Spencer quickly found out about me skipping classes. It was probably his informants who reported it to him. He knew a lot of people in the school, always surrounded by a bunch of sycophants flattering him. He thought he had finally caught my weakness and immediately went to complain to Mr. and Mrs. Sterling. He wanted them to scold me, to make them feel I was a delinquent child who wasn't doing proper work. But he didn't expect that Mr. and Mrs. Sterling were currently overwhelmed, trying to cure his sleeping sickness. They fundamentally had no mental energy to deal with me. After Mrs. Sterling heard Spencer out, she just brushed him off perfunctorily. "I know, once your condition gets better, I will discipline him." Mr. Sterling even said bluntly, "If he likes to skip, let him skip. He's not our family anyway, and he won't inherit the company in the future. Just leave him be." Spencer was hit with a bucket of cold water. He was furious to the point of exploding, but could do nothing. He could only swallow his anger. 3 weeks later, I smoothly completed the task of skipping class 20 times. That night, right as I returned to the dorm, the system's voice echoed in my head. Ding. Host has completed the task. Skip class 20 times. Task evaluation. Excellent. Host receives the second wish opportunity. This time, the system recommends superior business acumen, physical optimization, or enhanced romantic magnetism. If the host does not choose the recommended options, you may face unknown risks. Please choose carefully. Unknown risks? I sneered. This system wanted to use threats to force me to choose according to its will. In the dream, precisely because I chose the recommended options like investment wealth and academic enhancement, Spencer received double the benefits, causing the parents to favor him even more. This time, I absolutely refused to choose them. I was going to pick a wish that was useful to me while bringing disaster to Spencer. I thought for a moment, then spoke to the system in my mind. I wish for my gender to be male, and my romantic orientation to be female. This wish was extremely simple for me, because I naturally liked girls anyway. It had zero impact. But for Spencer, it was completely different. The system doubles the effect. I am unilaterally attracted to females. So what would Spencer's romantic orientation become? Just thinking about it was hilarious. Ding. Host wish successful. Effect will take place within 24 hours. System reminds the host. Choosing a non-recommended option carries potential risks. I wasn't the least bit worried about any so-called potential risks. After all, Spencer would bear double the risks for me anyway. Sure enough, 2 days later, rumors about Spencer exploded across the school, even wilder than the narcolepsy incident. Did you guys hear? Spencer confessed his love to a guy at the stadium yesterday. A girl holding her phone excitedly told her friends around her. Someone recorded a video. Look, he even tried to hold the guy's hand, but the guy shoved him away. It was so embarrassing. Real or fake? Yesterday I even saw him eating with a girl. Why does he suddenly like guys? Another girl looked utterly shocked, unable to believe it. Oh my god, wasn't he chasing Lily before? Lily even rejected him, and he looked so miserable then. Why did his orientation change so abruptly? Another classmate chimed in, eyes sparkling with gossip. Hearing these discussions, my heart felt incredibly satisfied. Previously, Spencer always pretended to be a romantic saint in school, chasing girls and making sure everyone knew about it. In the end, none of them agreed. Now this is great. His sexual orientation turned to males. Let's see how he can pretend to be a love guru chasing girls anymore. That night Spencer came looking for me. He blocked me in a small, dark alley at the bottom of the dorm stairs. The alley was very dark, lit only by a faint yellowish streetlight. The yellow light shone on his face, making him look incredibly miserable. His eye sockets were deeply sunken, his hair was messy, and his clothes weren't even buttoned properly. 2 shirt buttons were misaligned. He looked no different from a madman. It was you playing tricks, wasn't it? Spencer lunged forward to interrogate me. He grabbed my arm, his fingers squeezing hard, making me wince in pain. His voice trembled with fear and anger. I know you have the system. It was you who wished to make me like this. Tell the system to change me back immediately. If you don't, I won't let you off. I forcefully shook his hand off, sneering. What nonsense are you talking about? What system? I don't understand. Your own personality changes. What does that have to do with me? Could it be that you liking guys is something you have to blame on others? Stop pretending. Spencer's emotions grew increasingly agitated. He pointed a shaking finger at my face. Before, I slept 16 hours a day. Now I've turned into this. It's definitely your doing. Hurry up and wish me back to normal. If not, I'll tell mom and dad. I'll make them teach you a lesson and kick you out of the Sterling house. Go ahead, I crossed my arms, casually replying. You think mom and dad will believe you? Right now they only care about your narcolepsy and your sexual orientation. They completely don't have the time to care about me. Even if you tell them I have a system, they'll just think you've gone crazy, that your mental state is abnormal, and you're spouting nonsense. Spencer looked at me, his eyes overflowing with terror, anger, and a trace of despair. He knew I was right. Mom and dad currently completely disbelieved his words, even thinking that, because the pressure was too high, he was having hallucinations. Suddenly, with a thud, he dropped to his knees. His knees slammed hard onto the ground, emitting a dull sound. His pants were covered in dirt, making him look incredibly pathetic. He grabbed the leg of my pants, his voice crying out like a helpless child. "Brother, I was wrong. I shouldn't have fought with you for mom and dad before. Shouldn't have set you up. Shouldn't have made you suffer grievances. Forgive me this time. Can you change me back to normal? From now on, I will never oppose you again. I will listen to everything you say, okay?" Watching him kneel on the ground like this, my heart felt absolutely no sympathy. In the dream, how did he treat me? I remember it all perfectly. He stole my identity, stole my parents, stole the girl I liked. Finally, he even made me die in bitter resentment. Now he's only suffered a small punishment and already wants me to forgive him? How could it be that cheap? Too late, I kicked him away. He tumbled to the ground, grimacing in pain. I looked down at him, my voice ice cold. When you did those things before, you should have thought of today's outcome. This is the karma you deserve. After saying that, I turned around and walked into the dorm staircase, ignoring Spencer's crying and cursing behind me. The sound-activated lights in the hallway lit up, shining on me. I felt my whole body become light, as if I had just shed a 1,000-pound burden. Just as I returned to my room and hadn't even sat down yet, the system's voice echoed in my head again. Ding. Third task assigned. Sever relations with your parents. Time limit. 1 month. Please complete the task promptly. Task failure will result in severe punishment, which may affect the host's physical safety. Sever relations with my parents? I sneered internally. This task was definitely Spencer playing tricks. He knew my current relationship with my parents was not good, so he wanted me to completely lose this backing, turning me into someone with no support. He thought doing this would make me submit, make me obediently listen to him. But honestly, I already had that intention. Living with Mr. and Mrs. Sterling, I always felt uncomfortable. In their eyes there was only Spencer. They fundamentally didn't have this son that was me. In front of them, I was like an outsider, even a burden. Instead of continuously torturing myself like this, it would be better to cut ties completely to save trouble later. During the summer break that year, I returned to the Sterling villa. The atmosphere in the villa was suffocating, completely different from the last time I came. Mr. and Mrs. Sterling rarely spoke to me. During meals, they just kept their heads down and ate, occasionally saying a few words to Spencer, asking how his health was. And Spencer? He constantly looked at me with venomous eyes, like a poisonous snake, ready to strike and bite me at any moment. Sure enough, Spencer couldn't sit still. Every day he badmouthed me in front of the parents, exaggerating things, fabricating stories that I was unfilial and greedy. Once, he took a screenshot of a text message, showed it to Mrs. Sterling, and said, "Mom, look at this! He is actually bad-mouthing our family to outsiders. He said you and Dad are biased, that you don't love him. He even said he's going to scam all the family's assets and give them to the people he knows at the orphanage." I glanced over at that photo. It was clearly forged. Although the profile picture in the message was mine, the nickname wasn't. The tone of speaking was also completely different. One look, and you could tell it, was made using photo editing software. Yet Mrs. Sterling's believed it to be true. She held the phone, her hands trembling with anger, pointed straight at my face, and scolded, "Max, I truly didn't expect you to be this kind of person. We already gave you 5 million yuan, and you still aren't satisfied. You even want to fight over assets with Spencer? And you go around gossiping and bad-mouthing us outside? How can you be so greedy and ungrateful?" Spencer stood to the side, adding oil to the fire, pretending to mediate. "Mom, don't be mad. He is probably just confused for a moment, getting tricked by people. He didn't mean it on purpose. Mom, don't lower yourself to his level. Getting angry harms your health." While saying these words, his eyes were full of a victorious smile. I wasn't confused at all. I put down my chopsticks, calmly looked at the couple, and said, "I have never thought about fighting for assets, nor have I ever badmouthed anyone outside. That photo is forged. If you two don't believe me, you can check my chat history, or go ask my roommates." Mr. Sterling slammed his wine glass down, his face dark, his tone impatient. "Enough! Stop talking! The house is already chaotic enough. Can't you let me worry a bit less? He fundamentally didn't bother listening to my explanation. In his eyes, I was just a troublemaker. I looked at them. The final shred of hope for family affection in my heart completely vanished. I took a deep breath, my tone calm but firm. Since you two don't trust me this much, it's better if we sever our relationship. Both Mr. and Mrs. Sterling froze. They probably never expected me to be the one to initiate this proposal. Mrs. Sterling stared blankly for a few seconds, then sneered. Sever relations? You think we care about having a son like you? Sever it then. Mr. Sterling also stood up abruptly, pointing at me, his voice full of anger. What did you say? Repeat it again, I said. We are severing our relationship. I looked straight into their eyes, articulating every single word clearly and firmly. From today onward, I am no longer your son, and you are no longer my parents. From now on, we have no connection. Your business is yours. I won't interfere. My business is mine. You don't meddle. Good. Very good. Mr. Sterling trembled with rage. He pointed at me for a long time, unable to speak. Finally, he viciously spat out. Sever it, then. I'll consider I never gave birth to this son. From now on, don't you dare step a single foot into this house. I didn't say another word. I turned and returned to the guest room. The belongings in the guest room were very few. Just a bed, a wardrobe, and a desk. I opened the wardrobe and packed my few clothes into my suitcase. They were all things I brought myself. The Sterling family had never bought me a single piece of fabric. Then I picked up the Tao Te Ching book on the desk. Tucked inside was a photo of the orphanage director. That was my only comfort. I carried my suitcase and walked out of the villa. Behind me, Mrs. Sterling cursed. Once you leave, don't have the face to come back. The Sterling family doesn't have a son like you. I didn't look back. On the contrary, I felt incredibly relieved. Walking out of the main gate, the yellowish sunlight cascaded down my body, strangely warm. I had finally escaped this suffocating family. I could finally live as myself. As soon as I returned to school, Spencer sought me out. He looked even more haggard than before, his eyes bloodshot, his complexion as pale as a corpse crawling out of a grave. Did you really cut ties with Mom and Dad? He asked. His tone carried an imperceptible excitement, as if me severing relations was exactly what he had been hoping for. What does it have to do with you? I replied coldly, not wanting to waste breath on him. Of course it matters. Spencer let out a bizarre laugh. Now you don't have the support of Mom and Dad. You have no backing from the Sterling family. Let's see what you use to fight me. Let me tell you, you better not make any more wishes. Otherwise, I will go find Vivian. I will tell her the real purpose of why you bullied her. Let her know what a hypocrite you are. Did he think he could threaten me using Vivian? So naive. The matter between me and Vivian was clearest only to the two of us. Even if he found her, she would never believe his words. I looked at him and suddenly burst into a comfortable laugh. You think I'm scared? I know what kind of person Vivian is better than you do. Even if you went to her, she wouldn't believe you. I paused for a moment, stepping closer to him, lowering my voice in a threat. Oh right, let me ask you something. What if I wished for my blood pressure range to be systolic 90 to 139 mm scares and diastolic 60 to 89 mm scares? What do you think would happen to you? Spencer's complexion instantly turned ashen. He stumbled backwards several steps, almost tripping over his own feet. He pointed at me, his voice trembling with fear. You don't do anything crazy. If you dare wish for that, I'll risk my life to fight you. Fight how? I stepped forward step by step, pressing him, my eyes cold as I asked. What right do you have to negotiate with me now? You can't even control your own body, and you want to fight me? Stop wasting your energy. Spencer looked at me, his eyes full of terror. Suddenly, he turned his head and ran away. He ran as fast as a coward rabbit, disappearing from my sight in no time. Looking at his retreating back, I sneered. He had already been scared out of his wits by the system. Just a little threat from me, and he'd be terrified. This was just the beginning. I would make him pay the price for everything he did to me in the dream and in reality. From then on, Spencer seemed to have turned into a different person. He stopped going to school. All day he stayed cooped up at home, locking himself in his room, not daring to go out. The curtains in his room were always tightly drawn. Regardless of day or night, the room was always dark and gloomy. Mr. and Mrs. Sterling had no other choice but to place his food outside his door. Every day they knocked and called him to eat. He would only occasionally open the door to grab it, then slam it shut again. His room was piled with instant noodle cups and takeout boxes, with cigarette butts and trash scattered all over the floor. The air smelled as foul as a garbage dump. He constantly felt someone was out to harm him. At night he frequently had nightmares, screaming delirious words, don't come over. I didn't mean it. System, don't look for me. Mrs. Sterling often heard his crying and shrieking. Every night she was heartbroken to the point of dying, but she couldn't help him. They invited psychologists to the house, but every time the doctor spoke a few sentences, Spencer would get agitated and chase the doctor out. The doctor told them he was suffering from severe anxiety and terror, accompanied by paranoia, and needed hospitalization for treatment. But Spencer adamantly refused to go. He said there were people from the system in the hospital waiting to harm him. I continued to hold on to the third wish without using it. I precisely wanted Spencer to live in fear. The worse his mental state became, the more his body would deteriorate. I wanted the fear to gnaw at him gradually, letting him taste the feeling of despair, just like I did in that dream. About a month later, while I was sitting and reading in the library, my phone suddenly vibrated. It was an unknown number. I hesitated for a moment, then answered it. On the other end of the line was Mrs. Sterling's choked-up voice. Max, you, come back and see Spencer one last time. He's not going to make it. My heart stopped for a second. I didn't expect Spencer's life to be ruined so fast, but I didn't feel sad at all. On the contrary, I felt this was appropriate karma for him. I already severed relations with everyone. His business has nothing to do with me, I said calmly, my voice without a ripple. Max, Auntie is begging you. Come back and see him one last time. He keeps calling your name constantly, saying he was wrong, begging for your forgiveness. Mrs. Sterling's crying grew louder and louder, full of despair. Auntie knows we failed you in the past. We were biased. We were foolish. Come back and see him. Consider it Auntie begging you. I remained silent for a few seconds. In the end, I still refused. I can't. I'm busy. Goodbye, Auntie. After saying that, I hung up the phone, put it on silent mode, and continued reading my book. That afternoon, I heard the news that Spencer had died. It was Trey who told me. He read the news online saying the heir of the Sterling Group had passed away at his private residence. The cause was sudden cardiac arrest. Later, I heard people recount the details. That morning, Mrs. Sterling went to wake Spencer up. She knocked for a long time without a reply. Feeling something was wrong, she used the spare key to open the door. The result was finding Spencer lying on the floor, his face pale, having stopped breathing a long time ago. Scattered next to him were many pills, along with a piece of paper written with delirious words like, "System, don't find me. Max, I was wrong." The doctors came to examine him and said that because Spencer was subjected to prolonged excessive fear and anxiety, it led to a sudden cardiac arrest. His body had been completely worn down by fear, and his organs all showed signs of failure. Mr. and Mrs. Sterling called me a few more times, asking me to attend Spencer's funeral, but I refused them all. I no longer had any relationship with them. His funeral had absolutely nothing to do with me. After turning off the final call, I spoke to the system in my mind. I wish for the wish system to disappear entirely. Ding! Host wishes for no system. Wish successful. System preparing to unbind. Thank you, host, for using. The robotic voice echoed for the final time, then completely vanished. I breathed a sigh of relief, feeling my whole body become as light as if a 1,000-pound burden had been lifted. The system finally disappeared. I was no longer controlled by it, no longer having to do bizarre tasks. After the system vanished, I spent more time on my studies. Vivian's grades got better and better, rising from top of the major to top of the entire cohort, even receiving a national scholarship. Her health also gradually improved. Her complexion was rosy, no longer having that pale white look from before. Her whole person brimmed with vitality. Her mother's illness also significantly subsided. After a period of treatment, she could get out of bed and walk around normally, and could even do some simple household chores. Her younger brother also worked very hard, testing into the city's top high school. He ranked first in his class on every exam, and often called her, saying he would learn from his older sister, get into a good university in the future, and take care of mom and his sister. One afternoon, Vivian asked to meet me by the lake on campus. Many willow trees were planted by the lake. The wind blew, making the willow branches sway gently like a young girl's hair. The surface of the lake sparkled, and occasionally a few small fish would jump out, leaving expanding ripples of water. Vivian was wearing a white dress, her hair draped over her shoulders. She held a small daisy in her hand standing by the lake. She looked extremely beautiful. The sunlight shone on her body, as if plating her in a layer of solid gold. "Max!" She saw me, her face breaking into a gentle smile. She walked up to me and asked softly, "Are you free today? I have something I want to tell you." "Yes, I am. Go ahead," I smiled, secretly anticipating in my heart. Vivian lowered her head, her fingers gently twirling the small daisy. Her cheeks flushed slightly, her voice carrying a sense of shyness. I know why you bullied me back then. Thank you. If it weren't for you, I truly wouldn't know what to do. My mom probably wouldn't be here anymore, my brother wouldn't have gone to school, and I probably would have had to drop out a long time ago. I froze for a moment, asking in surprise, how did you know? I thought I hid it very well and no one knew. I heard your roommates talk about it. Vivian looked up, her eyes full of gratitude. The day you helped me chase my dad away, and the matter of you forcing me to stop working part-time to eat properly, they saw it all. They told me they knew your character. You never truly wanted to bully me, you wanted to help me. I smiled, feeling very happy inside. I didn't expect those 3 dorm mates to help me explain. Vivian looked at me. Her eyes carried a bit of shyness mixed with anticipation. Her voice was gentle but extremely clear. Max, I like you. Will you agree to be my boyfriend? I know right now I'm still not good enough, but I will try hard. I will study very well, find a good job later, and work hard together with you. Strive together with you. I looked at her, my heart as sweet as having just tasted honey. I nodded, my voice unable to hide my emotion. I agree, Vivian. I like you too. Vivian immediately threw herself into my arms, bursting into sobs. I gently patted her back, feeling the warmth from her body, my heart feeling boundlessly happy. All the grievances and hardships of so many years dissolved into thin air at this exact moment. After that, I used that 5 million yuan to do a bit of investing. I bought some stable financial funds and injected capital into a new tech startup. Unexpectedly, that company grew very quickly. In less than a year, it became profitable. My investment multiplied several times over. Vivian and I both successfully tested into grad school at the university. During our master's studies, we went to classes together, sat in the library together, and ate in the cafeteria together. The days passed richly and happily. After graduating, I opened an investment company. When it first started, the scale wasn't large, with only a few employees. But thanks to experience and active networking accumulated from before, I soon achieved success. The scale of the company expanded day by day. I also donated money to completely renovate the entire orphanage. Vivian went to work at a major hospital, becoming a doctor. She worked very diligently, always patient with patients, and soon earned the recognition of the hospital leadership and the patients. When we got married, I invited my 3 roommates and the orphanage director. The wedding was simple but extremely warm. The director held my hand, smiling kindly. Little Max, you have finally found happiness. Mother is happy for you. As for Trey and the guys, they were the rowdiest at the wedding, even demanding that later they must be the godfathers of our children. Life after marriage was very fulfilling. We bought a house that fit perfectly, featuring a small balcony. Vivian planted a lot of flowers there. Whenever the flowers bloomed, the whole balcony smelled fragrant. On weekends, we would go visit the orphanage director together, chatting and helping her with chores. We also frequently returned to Vivian's home to visit her mother and brother. As for Mr. and Mrs. Sterling, ever since Spencer's death, their lives went downhill disastrously. Because the Sterling Group lacked management, plus previous mistakes in investments, it quickly fell into a crisis and ultimately went bankrupt. They had to move from the luxurious villa to a cramped, small rental house, living extremely miserably. Due to the shock of the bankruptcy, Mr. Sterling suffered a stroke. He could only lie bedridden, needing someone to take care of him. Mrs. Sterling had to go to the market every day to buy groceries and care for him. Her hair turned white rapidly, making her look much older. Sometimes, I would bump into her at the market. She wore cheap t-shirts and pants, carrying a small cloth bag, haggling over every penny with the vendors. She no longer possessed any of the leisurely, aristocratic elegance from before. Whenever she saw me, she would always lower her head and walk away very quickly, not daring to look straight into my eyes. I didn't initiate any conversation with her either. After all, we had severed our relationship. Everyone just living their own separate lives well was enough. Sometimes, I look back at myself in that dream, the person who died in bitter resentment in a shoddy rental room. If there hadn't been that dream, if there hadn't been that system, perhaps I would still be exactly like in the dream, bullied by Spencer, cast aside by my parents, ultimately ending with a tragic fate. But right now, I have a wife who loves me, I have sincere brothers, I have my own career, and a happy family. I am very lucky to have grasped the opportunity to change my own destiny. Life is never flat. There are always all kinds of difficulties and setbacks. But as long as we don't give up, as long as we persevere in being ourselves and hold firmly onto our good, kind hearts, we will definitely find the happiness that belongs uniquely to us. That is the most important philosophy I learned from this experiential journey.